Hello, it's the Rec Show podcast, and we're talking about wine for the holidays. Yes, the holidays are coming up.
The holidays are coming up.
And Jeremy is here with some great advice for the major holidays that are coming up when it regards having a great bottle of wine with that meal.
With
right?
that meal,
Yeah.
and oftentimes it depends on what that type of meal is. But
Right.
we're talking about like Thanksgiving, for
Right.
instance. Thanksgiving, I think especially even more than Christmas, you end up having some sweeter foods.
Right.
Like the candied yams and things like that. And so picking a bottle of wine it can be a little bit tough. There is a general rule of thumb that when you're having a lot of sweeter foods and things like that, sometimes it's better to have a slightly sweeter style of wine with it.
To match.
To match, because when you have sweet food and then you drink wine, sweet food is going to make that wine seem a lot drier than it actually
Right,
is.
right.
So you want something kind of a little sweeter, or something maybe has a little bit more oak.
Can you pass me the cranberry sauce over there real quickly?
right? This one right here.
So that makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
so when we're having turkey and things
Right.
like that, generally we're drinking
Yams.
yams. We're drinking generally white wines with that, and for me, a lot of people might go to like a heavily oaked Chardonnay or even a Riesling, but for me personally, I would love to see a Viognier that's been done a little bit in oak. So you see a lot of those in the Sierra foothills, but you can definitely just go to like either Total Wine or any of your basic wine shops, and they're going to have something like that. So a Viognier is an amazing food wine,
Okay.
and it's the type of wine that you can have with the entire meal. It's going to go great with the turkey.
Right.
It's going to go great with the candied yams, cranberry sauce, all of that.
That whole
So,
thing. And
yeah,
a
so
little
it's a lot of
pumpkin
fun.
pie later. Maybe.
And with pumpkin pie, you might be having a little something else.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, maybe some brandy. or something. I
brandy
don't
or
know.
some port. I think those would balance out
Right.
pretty
Whiskey,
well.
maybe. I don't
Whiskey,
know.
whatever your libation happens to be with desserts.
Now, a quick question for you on Thanksgiving. In my house, we do prime rib, right? We do a nice tasting prime rib. So what would you recommend wine-wise to pair with that?
With especially prime rib, or even certain steaks, you want something with that's going to have a little bit more tannin, something that's going to like cut through the grease. So the
Right.
whole idea is that you're going to have a piece of that prime rib. It's going to be wonderful, salty, fatty, meaty, all those all those things that
All
we
those
as-
things that are
as-
bad for
that
you.
we that we they're just so bad for you. But moderation and everything, right? So you want something that's going to complement that. You want something, like a Cabernet. In some cases, I like Pinot Noir, but that might not be sort of big enough. But a nice Cabernet would go really well with that. Even certain Malbecs, things like that. You want something that's going to have a little bit more of a tannin, a little drier anyway. And what it's going to do is it's going to cut through all the fats, on the palate, and it's that way when you take the next bite, it's going to accentuate those salts and meats and all those kind of wonderful things.
And isn't that really, why we drink wine is to accentuate the food, to
Yeah.
make those tastes really pop out, to make
Yeah.
them really come alive in your
Also,
mouth.
I think that when you're having that sort of dinner, you're also you have to think of wine as another food item. Something
Yeah, yeah.
like I'm sure your mom told you to eat around your plate, so you have a bite of the meat, a bite of the potatoes, a bite of peas, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And with that, you should have a sip of wine.
Right.
And what it does is it does help clear the palate up.
Right.
Take the fats and all the heaviness off of the tongue,
Right.
and just allow that next bite to be as wonderful and
As the
flavorful
first bite.
as the first bite. Exactly right.
Right. So Thanksgiving, we got Thanksgiving covered with what wine maybe you should pair with your Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah.
So let's move on now to Christmas.
Christmas.
Because Christmas, to me, seems sometimes like people almost do the same meal that they do on Thanksgiving.
A lot of times
Yeah,
they do,
it's
right?
the turkey still, it's the mashed potatoes and gravy, it's the rolls coming out of the oven, the yams and all that. But sometimes Christmas dinner can be a little different too, right?
It can be a little bit, sometimes a little bit different. And you say that you like prime rib on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I think that Christmas is one of those times that people really do mix up the meals. Whether it's like a big ham, if it's prime rib, and sometimes just like big comfort food. And with that sort of meal, the one thing that I would really recommend is that you're not necessarily drinking one white. I think that opening up or one wine, I should say, is sometimes starting off if with a white, and really making sure that everyone at the table has a small glass of it. You know,
Right.
when you pour wine, I always pour smaller pours for everybody, whether I'm in the tasting room or at home. There's always more wine. We can always
Right.
put more in the glass. No one has ever left my tasting room or my house thirsty, you know? And
I didn't get enough.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just didn't.
And when you think of it as food, sometimes we don't think about portioning wine. And I think that's something that's kind of important to do. You know, your first glass, you know, if it's the first bottle of wine, if it's a white, you know, making sure everybody has, you know, 3 to 4 ounces tops.
Right.
And, you know, as you're kind of, you know, maybe, hopefully you get courses. Maybe you've started off with, you know, a salad course, whatever, getting through that and then opening up another bottle of wine.
Right.
And
It's
depending on
completely
and it's a completely different experience. And also it is a change from, you know, one form of that service to the next form.
Right, right. It's kind of, you know, as different parts of the meal come along,
Right.
the wine is kind of letting you know, okay, we're now into the main meal because we're having this type of wine.
Exactly right. And, you know, we can talk about all the different types of wine we can pair with all sorts of different types of food. And yet, at the end of the day, drink what you like.
Right.
You know,
right.
be comfortable. It's, you know, there's no real rule that says, oh, you have to have this with that. Mix it up. You know, I like being adventurous in wines and trying new things. And yet, when you have that type of meal, sometimes, you know, that meal is a comfort. It really is. You're making things that you probably, sometimes that's the only time of year that you make that particular dish.
Right.
So, you know, have something that you enjoy with it.
Well, I think it's comfort and familiarity. Usually, I mean, holiday
Absolutely.
meals. You know, it's something that traditionally you have in your family every year at that time.
Yeah, even if you change the main part of it, you know, I know I have family members that want to make one certain thing. I want this style of mashed potatoes.
Right.
I want, you know,
green
mac
bean
and cheese,
casserole.
the green bean casserole. And it's so funny, like, you know, we talk about the green bean casserole. It gets made twice a year.
Right.
How many? Wow. You know, I haven't had a green bean casserole in
You don't-
May.
yeah,
You
you
know,
just
it
don't.
just doesn't happen, right?
I think it's against the law.
It might be, you know.
It could be.
So, you know, and again, you know, this should be a fun and comfortable experience, and sometimes that's tough with your relatives. So, you know, just have something that you enjoy.
Right.
And mix it up. I'm a big fan of, you know,
I
having
always think too is
those two
if
wines.
you enjoy a bottle of wine, you know, the Kirkland that you brought in today.
Yeah,
and you share that
for this particular segment. You know, this is a really super easy bottle of wine
Right.
that I brought in
Yeah.
today, and it's fun, and
Exactly.
you know, it is just, it's one of those wines for drinking, maybe not necessarily tasting.
Right.
And you know, this is a wine that will go
I
with
think it has a nice
95.
taste, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
tastes great, but it will go with like 95% of things that I'm eating. You know, am I going to have this with shellfish? You know, maybe
Hey,
not.
we're having chili beans tonight.
Chili,
Yeah, grab
this
that.
is going to go great with chili. It's going to go great with paella. You know what's going to go great with? Pizza.
Right,
Or,
yeah,
you know, like
right.
the turkey burger.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the turkey burger needs some flavor. By the way,
Absolutely,
anyway.
you know, it needs a little something else, and you know that's another fun thing is like very often we think of like as that comfort food comes in that we should associate it with a certain type of drink.
Right.
Like if you have a chili burger, you should have a beer with that. It's like, oh,
Right.
you know what?
Yeah.
The chili burger is bad enough, and as much as I love craft beer, adding a beer on top of that, all those carbs and alcohol, not a lot of fun.
Right, right.
And yet, when you have a turkey burger or a regular burger
Right.
with a nice glass of red wine that
Yeah.
cuts through those fats, accentuates the salts, it's amazing.
Well, if you got a really good burger, I mean a really good burger,
Yeah.
it's got all kinds of flavor in it. I'm thinking bacon on top of that
Oh, yeah,
burger.
sure.
I'm thinking, you know, barbecue sauce.
and
I'm thinking there's
pastrami?
a nice wine that could really accentuate that even
Yeah,
more.
I think so. And really, yeah, you know, a really good Zinfandel
Right.
would go
Yeah, exactly.
fantastic with it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know, big and bold is fruity. Something that's going to be maybe just a little bit
Yeah.
sweeter than the food that you're eating right there.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, real quick for you, your best burger in the last 2 months.
Best burger in the last 2 months. I had a really good burger a week ago, and I'm trying to remember where I got it.
I think I
was
saw it
really good.
on.
Oh,
one of your
yes,
feeds.
yes. It was in Lake Tahoe
Yes.
at Riva Grill.
Love that place.
They're sliders. It
Yes.
was a slider. It was actually some sliders. My wife and I were up in Tahoe, of all fun places to be. And the sliders were probably the best sliders I've ever had at any restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, it was real hamburger. It was real, you know, it was just tangy. It tasted great. And of course, the view is unbelievable because you're right there on the lake on the patio. At least we were.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a nice day. The weather was nice. It was sunny.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
You couldn't beat it.
And what did you have with it?
that's all we had, really.
Yeah?
Yeah. We just had the sliders, just grabbing a quick snack kind of and relaxing for a bit before we headed back to Sacramento. So
nice.
Yeah. How about you?
Gosh, in Sacramento, I don't eat a lot of burgers, and maybe it's because of COVID and things opening up a little. I've had some great burgers. Oak Park Brewery. If you haven't been out there, has been absolutely, a limited menu, but the burgers there are absolutely fantastic. And then I'm a purist. Sometimes just going to In-N-Out is absolutely fantastic. And I have absolutely gotten takeout from there and opened up a bottle of wine with.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
Not? Yeah. So anything goes with wine. I think that's what we're saying.
Anything
can go with wine.
Yeah, I think that we shouldn't get caught up that something, a certain type of wine should be with a certain type of meal.
Right.
I think it's okay to mix it up.
Yeah.
And then, if you're lucky enough to, hang out with a sommelier or even, a chef who is, putting together an amazing meal and then brings in to certain wines to accentuate the experience, that's amazing as well.
Definitely. And now we're going to move on to the holiday that to me is a little different than Thanksgiving or Christmas, and that's New Year's. And you think champagne or you think sparkling wine because that's a tradition for a lot of folks to pop the cork on that and kind of bring in the new year, right?
Yeah, and for me, I love Spanish wines, and getting a nice bottle of cava, which is basically Spanish champagne, and you can find it fairly inexpensively, and there's wonderful wines out there.
Right.
My wife and I have a little bit of a tradition. We have a certain bottle of wine from a certain winery that that we'll open up on that day. I think it's nice to have those type of traditions.
Oh, yeah.
But really, anything that brings people together, even if it's just you and one other person, that's what you should be drinking.
Now, the thing I always feel with sparkling wine or champagne is there's a couple different schools of thought on champagne or sparkling wine. And the one is you get the dry, right? The dry, and so you want to make sure what you're having is really going to fit that dry, or that can be kind of an uncomfortable thing, right? A little bit, and then a little sweeter, or and there's so many different sparkling wines or champagnes that you can kind of go with. Right?
Yeah, I think that, New Year's Eve especially, it's one of those holidays where you're not necessarily pairing foods. Food's definitely part of it, but when you're having champagne or sparkling wine, you're just having that.
Right.
So anything else, know your audience.
Right.
If you got a feeling that the dry stuff is going to be a little parching. Go ahead. There's wonderful proseccos out there that have just a hint of sweetness, and there's also some demis that are just much sweeter and really a lot of fun.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with having a couple bottles of both because different people like different varietals.
Absolutely, yeah. And and for some people, it's kind of funny when you're having that big party and everybody's raising their champagne at midnight. Sometimes it's hard to please everybody. So there's some easy things you can get, and they're all at the supermarket.
Right.
And also, you shouldn't feel bad about it. Pick one that you feel comfortable with, and
something you like
get
we
going.
Were saying. Something you like, you like. And,
they're not. We're on New Year's Eve. We are not tasting wine. We are definitely drinking it. So I think the importance of what you're getting in terms of price and other things, it's a little lower. The bars are set a little lower for that night.
Well, I think this is all great advice as we approach the holidays, and they are upon us. A couple weeks, we're going to have Thanksgiving here, and folks will be getting into maybe a Zoom call and some wine and their imaginary turkey.
I think there's going to be a lot of Zooming going on New Year's Eve.
Right.
I know we'll be. I have friends out of the country, and we'll definitely be Zooming with them at various times through the day.
Sure.
And it'll be interesting to see if we have an opportunity to have a real party.
Yeah. So I think, but that doesn't mean that you still can't have a great meal, have a great glass of wine, and wish your family and friends blessings. So I think that's really what it's all about. So this is the holiday edition of the Rex Show podcast, talking how to pair wine with the holiday meal. Jeremy, how do folks get a hold of you?
You can find me at Existential Wine Guy on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find my website at Existential Wine Guy.
Perfect.
But reach out if you ever have any questions. I get messages and calls from people now all over the world.
Wow.
Talking about wine in different regions and what's going on in California, and now with all my friends through Facebook, through Instagram, I'm hearing about things from all over the world, and
Right.
it's just really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're all globally connected.
We
you know,
are.
And, hear things all over the world. I host a radio show, and we're hearing
Right.
from people all over the place. And I think that's nice. That's kind of good, because I grew up playing soccer. And the thing I loved about playing soccer was stepping onto the field and having somebody from Brazil or having somebody from Germany and having a conversation with them about why did they come to America? What's going on in Germany these days,
Absolutely.
or whatever. And so that was, to me, that was kind of a cool thing about the game of soccer.
Yeah, I mean, the world is kind of a lot smaller,
Oh, definitely.
and it's a great thing.
It is. It is.
And talking to people from literally all over the world about any number of things,
Right.
what's going on in their country, how they're they're
Right.
attacking COVID.
Right.
I get a lot of people from wineries, like in Italy and Greece,
Oh, wow.
reaching out, becoming friends.
Sure,
And now I get to explore what they're doing, and it's amazing.
It really is amazing. I mean, that's the positive of social media.
Absolutely.
That it opens up kind of the world to us. And so it's neat to kind of see what's going on in other parts of the world and have those friendships that we can have online that years ago we wouldn't have been able to
Yeah,
have.
and then when some restrictions get loosened again, then we get to go out there and meet them in person.
right,
And
we
when,
can travel,
and then seriously, when you visit another country and all of a sudden you're meeting a local, or there's you have a friend in that city that knows that town,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
it's it can be an extraordinary
It really
experience.
can, because you're not getting just that tourist view. You're getting a real view of them knowing where to go for dinner, where to go for wine. This is a great place. You need to check it out. So
Yeah.
nothing like getting that kind of firsthand knowledge.
Exactly, and for me especially, it all happened through wine.
Right, right.
And my love for wine and other people's passion for wine.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
No, not at
Nothing
all.
wrong with that. So, hey, thanks for joining us on the Rec Show podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers and love.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I think